You've got this, Jamie. Good evening. I'm joining you live from the coastal town of Beach City, which is currently the site of an unexplained weather phenomenon. Earthquakes, power outages, and intense winds have already caused significant distress amongst this tight-knit community, and immediate evacuation is advised. The cause of this phenomenon remains currently unknown. Could it be a message from beyond the stars? A divine sign to chase your dreams and seek your purpose? Who's to say? But I'll be here to update you as the situation continues to develop. Stay safe, look after each other, and be on high alert. Thank you, and good night. How do you think how'd I do? I know, sorry, I got a little bit carried away. What the hell is that? Over there. Is that a... It looks like a hand. Hey guys, it's Lucky and welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so happy to have you here. It's always a pleasure. For the sake of drama and setting the scene, I'm gonna try and use my inside voice for this video, but just know I am brimming with excitement to be finally sitting down and recording this one for you guys. First and foremost, what is up with that TV, dude? That thing is not operational anymore. Someone's gotta do something about that. And secondly, lore drop alert, I'm gonna drop a major lore bomb right now. In this universe, Jamie is canonically auditioning for a role playing a character with an Australian accent, and he's taking it very seriously, okay? Method acting, all of that, it's a big deal for him. So that's why he sounds like that, and it's not because I couldn't do an American accent if my life depended on it. Now, with that heavy-hitting, story-defining lore established, today we are jumping back into the world of Absolute Steven Universe. This is the mutant hybrid of a series that is part world building, part character design, part dramatic fan fiction reading. We're doing it all over here at Lucky Strife Industries, okay? It's a big operation, lots of moving parts, and heavy emphasis on the dramatic fan fiction reading. If you're a drama lover, this one's for you. I got a little bit carried away. For anyone that's new here, welcome. In this series, we've been building piece by piece a darker, alternate version of the Steven Universe world. One where Garnet and Pearl were corrupted, Greg is no longer with us, Lion was made in a lab, Jasper's on steroids, Lapis needs even more therapy than usual, and much, much more. But this video is a big one already, and we have a lot of ground to cover. So if any of those ideas sound interesting to you, please feel free to check out the previous entries in this series. I have a playlist up on my channel. Get caught up and pop back here to see the trauma I've cooked up for our heroes in this one. And strap in, guys, because this one is going to be a ride. I'm finally going to be covering some really highly requested concepts today, and because I know some of you guys have been waiting so patiently for me to cover some of these topics, I really wanted to try my best to give them the time they deserved, as you can see from the length of this video. So this one is going to be quite narrative heavy. Feel free to pop it on while you do some drawing or get some chores done. I hear cosmic horrors beyond our imaginings are great for productivity. I think that was in a study I read, I don't know. Really quickly, I just wanted to talk about the way I set up this video. So my intention for this one is for it to feel like with each segment, I'm opening up a little portal for you into a significant moment in time or event in this universe. Like opening up a book and flipping to a random page. Some segments might connect while others might not. Some things won't be in chronological order, and there's going to be events and moments between the madness that I just didn't get to touch on today. But that's just the best way I could think of to collage these crazy elements of the extremely vast Steven Universe world into this video without making it even longer. And lastly, for your viewing pleasure, I have written out some pretty detailed stories for this video, but this world is still very much a work in progress. It's always on my mind, always developing, and you guys and your ideas inspire me just as much as the show does. So some things might get tweaked in the future as we come up with bigger and better ideas. The first video was supposed to just be a one-off what if, and I already don't consider some things in that video to be canon, like buff superhero Steven. Who knows, maybe I'll remaster it one day. But like I said before, I want you to view this series as the crazy rambles of your friend that's way too invested in their ideas and not a polished story pitch. I think the chaos of watching something like this develop and change over time is part of the fun, at least for me anyway, and I'm really grateful to have you along for the ride. And just one final little thing I'll mention really quickly. This video is absolutely massive and it covers a lot of territory, from full stories to my thoughts to the character design process. So I know different people will come to this video wanting to get different things out of it, so I'll try and be very thorough when I chapter this video. So check the video chapters or the timestamps in the description to find exactly what you would like to see. But without any further ado, I've dragged this intro out long enough. Please sit back, get comfy, grab your sketchbook, grab a snack, and let's jump head first into the world of absolute Steven Universe. Bismuth. We're going to kick off this video with a character that has been highly requested since the series began. It's time to talk about the rainbow-haired blacksmith of the crystal gems, Bismuth. As we know, in the show, after coming to blows, oh my god, Dr. Seuss over here, with the leader of the crystal gems, Rose Quartz, over the invention of her gem-shattering weapon, the Breaking Point, Rose poofed Bismuth and secretly stowed her away inside Lion's mane, until she was eventually discovered by Steven. But with Lion's alternate origin in this universe, we know our girl Bismuth ain't in there, so where is she? And to answer that question, we have to go a long way back to the Gem War. Bismuth was one of the most passionate and loyal amongst the Crystal Gems ranks, believing so strongly in their cause, their future, and the freedom that they were fighting for. The right for all of Gemkind to be relinquished from Homeworld's oppressive system and free to forge their own identity. And although she believed in this cause with every fibre of her gem, the pain of watching her allies, her friends, fall one by one to Homeworld's forces, reduced to nothing but shards littering the battlefield, caused her to grow disillusioned with the Crystal Gems' current tactics. Her resentment towards their oppressors, her frustration over the never-ending war, and the seemingly infinite onslaught of Homeworld's factions festered into pure hatred. She didn't just want to win this war, she wanted retribution, revenge, an end to this suffering. And so she decided something had to change, and she forged the Breaking Point. Upon her return to the battlefield, she brought the weapon with her, and any Homeworld gem she encountered that refused to surrender met their end at its point. At first, in the chaos and haze of war, Bismuth's new methods went unnoticed. But when a downed crystal gem, moments from being shattered, watched as their attacker burst in front of them, and Bismuth herself emerged from the cloud of smoke and shards, Breaking Point in hand, her secret was revealed. Word quickly began to spread amongst the ranks of the crystal gems of Bismuth's new strategy, and she was soon confronted by several of her allies, their leader Rose Quartz amongst them. "This is not how we win this war," she stated. "Every single crystal gem was once in our enemy's shoes. We don't just fight against them, we fight for them to know the freedom that we do. And that freedom does not come with more shards on the battlefield. It's not our way." Bismuth disagreed with this sentiment. "How many gems have we lost to them?" she argued. "Before this war even begun, how many amongst us were shattered for a single toe out of line? We can't let them think us weak. The longer this war goes on, the more crystal gems we lose. This has to end, and soon. And this weapon, this is how we do it. Rose acknowledged her frustrations. She understood Bismuth's perspective, more so than she would ever know. But still, she pushed back once more, her voice stern. Seeing the look in her leader, her idol's eyes, a look of disappointment, scorn, and something else entirely she couldn't quite place, sobered Bismuth, and she agreed to fall in line. Following this confrontation, things returned to normal. However, with time, several of Bismuth's fellow crystal gems came to her and privately voiced their endorsement of her sentiment, praising the initiative and bravery she had showed. And as the brutal war waged on and Bismuth continued to watch as her friends returned from battle in pieces, these words of support stoked the fire in her once more. She returned to her forge, refining and crafting more breaking points, and arming her closest allies with the weapon. Secretly, this small group of vigilante rebels began splitting off on their own, confronting the most ruthless of Homeworld's legions and shattering all those that resisted. The group formed a tight-knit bond, and any guilt over their betrayal was swiftly overpowered by their passion for freedom, retribution, and the greater good. However, nothing can remain a secret forever, and when the rest of the rebels learnt of their actions, they did not take so kindly to this insubordination. Some saw them as traitors, undermining the philosophy of their movement and their leader, or loose cannons destined to sabotage their efforts from the inside, or just shard-hungry shatterers, enemies of the peace they were fighting to achieve. There were calls for punishment from some, others for exile, while a small minority even offered their sympathy and understanding. The incident sparked a loud debate amongst the rebel ranks, but before their leader could weigh in on the matter, Bismuth made her own decision. The politics, the judgment, the restrictions she felt, it was all too familiar. It was the same feeling she had joined the rebellion to escape. And so, she opted to leave and blaze her own trail. She was followed by a small group of allies who chose to align themselves with her. These included Snowflake Obsidian, Biggs Jasper, and Larimar. In the aftermath of this decision, the group shared solemn goodbyes with all of those who still wished to hear them. They required and repaired an old abandoned Homeworld vessel and prepared to disembark. On the eve of their departure, they entered the revitalized ship to discover their former leader Rose Quartz inside. Tearfully, she expressed her sadness at the way the situation had unfolded, the conflict it had sparked amongst their ranks, and the loss of some of the rebellion's most loyal and long-standing members. Earnestly, she thanked them for the time they spent at her side and bid them farewell. In the stars, the group established a new identity for themselves, the Forgers, a ragtag group of spacefaring rebels, menacing Homeworld's fleets, disrupting colony operations, and liberating whatever gems they could with the offer of joining them. This life and her newfound purpose hardened Bismuth into a fearsome threat amongst the colonies and a respected leader amongst her crew. But still, she retained her soft underbelly, seeing her crewmates new and old as her family. And although she runs a tight ship, the spirit of freedom, love, and choice underpins every action she takes as leader of the Forgers. In present day, their location is currently unknown, but as Homeworld begins to take interest in Earth once more, perhaps she'll pay her former home a visit. When designing Bismuth, I really wanted this design to showcase her newfound role in this universe. In the original show, we saw a version of Bismuth that was more or less preserved, not getting the chance to develop as thousands of years passed by. This Bismuth has very much had a chance to develop, and I wanted this design to reflect that. Creating a version of her with more edge and authority, rougher around the edges, literally and metaphorically. I was thinking about the battle armor she wears in the show and her skills as a blacksmith, and how these elements would manifest with the restrictions and limited resources her new spacefaring lifestyle would necessitate. and so I gave her this kind of scavenger, wastelander aesthetic, crafting body armor and weapons out of the scavenged materials of downed homeworld ships. This would not only serve as a resourceful use of supplies, but also a wearable trophy of her conquests. And I think the pops of colour and the jumbled assembly of these pieces creates a fun contrast to the darker colours underneath and the weathered edges and serious expression of the rest of the design. And also, I mean, she's the rainbow gem herself, so it just felt right. And of course, she had to have her gem covered. She knows all too well just how fragile they can be. Lastly, I gave her this headpiece to indicate her role as leader and reimagined her crystal gem tattoo as the emblem of the Forges, a nod to the weapon that set them down this path. Here's the final drawing for Bismuth. As I was creating this one, I downloaded a bunch of new brushes, and in all of that excitement and experimentation, I got a little bit lost in the source. So this one turned out a lot more graphic than the other drawings in the series, which at first I thought was a really fun switch up and a cool way to pay homage to the comic inspiration that kicked off the series originally, but after attempting to replicate it on some of the more complex designs later on, yeah, I quickly switched back to the previous style. I hope you enjoy learning about the life Bismuth has forged for herself in this universe, and I'm super excited to explore more of her and the Forges in the future. I think they have a lot of potential. Maybe these space pirates deserve a spin-off of their own. Unakite. Okay, history lesson over. I think it's time we check back in on the threats plaguing our team in the present day. When we last discussed Peridot and Jasper, their paths had just crossed following Peridot's renouncing of her position at Care and Jasper's bitter defeat at the hands of Smoky Quartz. But what was next for these two? And how did it result in the atrocity you see me drawing now? Well, lucky for us, I pulled some strings and I managed to get my hands on the transcriptions of some of Peridot's very own top secret keep out audio logs, which I hope can give us some more insight into this unlikely allyship. Let's take a look. Log date 12/2/2. I have made contact with Jasper. It appears she was sent to Earth in response to my signal, only to end up stranded here alongside me. Of course, nothing comes easy on this rock, and to think that Homeworld would send Jasper, the Jasper, to Earth in response to my call. There was a time when just the thought of it would have given me a fracture, but that time has long since passed. Besides, this is no longer the mythic soldier memorialized in our history. She is but a shell of her former self, a misshapen brute, her form mangled by those hideous implants. It's pathetic. But even so, her strength is formidable, and she is well regarded on Homeworld. And conveniently, our goals align on the same singular objective: finding the hybrid. This will be a walk in the kindergarten. Log date 12/3/2. Jasper is severely misguided. When she last set foot on this planet, it was nothing but a scorched rock, nowhere near the level of advancement and complexity it now shows, regardless of how archaic it may seem to us. Yet still, she believes herself an authority on this undertaking. We have barely begun our hunt, and already we have faced countless conflicts. She thinks me a tool, a walking navigational device. How foolish she is. She is on my planet, responding to my signal, chasing the hybrid that I discovered. Despite how easily I could best her in this fragile state, I remain above her petty jabs. The first Peridot diplomat. How enticing. Log date 12/6/2. My observation drones have been successfully deployed, and I have gained access to several human surveillance databases. Soon, I'll begin constructing a gem energy radar. If only I still had access to my lab, I would have had those freaks locked away in containment cells before they even knew what hit them. Although, working with these primitive human scraps did pose an interesting challenge. One that I swiftly surpassed, of course. She has yet to acknowledge my superior expertise, however. How surprising. Log date 12/8/2. I must admit, despite her obvious faults, Jasper's prowess within the field is admirable. Who knew a being of her size could possess such stealth? Watching her stalk through the overgrown weeds we now reside in, it reminds me of those felines we tested in the lab. And her perception is remarkable. Not a single trace of activity goes unnoticed by her. I almost feel sorry for those fluffy earth creatures that crossed her path today. Almost. With my intellect and skill and her force, we truly do make a formidable partnership. Finding the hybrid is not a matter of if, but when. Log date 12/10/2. We located our target today. His ranks have grown in size and his strength along with it. We underestimated them. We failed to coordinate our attack accordingly and they escaped. A temporary setback, I'm sure. And Jasper, I've never seen her like this. Something about that hybrid gets to her. A being like her is unfamiliar with failure, I'm sure, but she wants him even more than I, and my very salvation depends on it. I wonder what it is about them that makes her so unpredictable. Maybe I would ask if she was capable of holding an actual conversation. Log date 12/11/2. Jasper spoke to me of the war today, brief as always, but I didn't know it was like that. Yes, I read the logs. I knew of the dark smudge it left on the history of our brilliant empire, but the way she spoke of it was a different thing entirely. And those implants? At first I thought they were merely enhancements, a cheap serpentine scientist's attempt to iterate on perfection, but I was wrong. They're sustaining her, stabilizing her. Perhaps on my grand return to homeworld I can refine their crude design. After receiving my own pearl, of course. This night has given me much to think about. Log date 12/14/2. We are closing on our target once more. I wish I could say this with confidence of our impending success, but that would be dishonest. My ally seems to be compromised. She has grown restless, scattered, even more so than before. She has become preoccupied with hunting any gem beast that crosses our path. I tend not to stick around for these brutal activities, but the intensity of which she pursues them, the sound of their splintering gems, I do not believe it is only for sport that she hunts them. Log date who even cares? I have failed. I need to speak. We confronted the hybrid once more today, or, well, they confronted us. They had been seeking me, and they knew of the geoweapon. Oh, shards, the geoweapon. How could I have been so foolish? How could I have allowed such an oversight? Of course, I knew it would grow unstable in my absence. I had planned for that. I did not think I would be stuck on this disgusting planet for so long, and with all of her distractions, the trekking through the muck, the fighting, the hunting, the survival, I forgot about the one thing that would make it all for nothing. She was already slipping as it was. I was sure I could handle it alone. I mean, she was only dragging me down anyway, but hearing those words from the hybrid's mouth, remembering the fate that awaits us if we remain on this planet, it turned me into a pebble. And then, oh stars, and then we fused. My recollection is incomplete. I remember her, whoever she was, whoever we were, how it felt to be her, to see the ground shake under my feet, the power, the confusion, the feeling of those implants pumping filth into my form. It was all too much. But still, I had no idea. How could I have had any idea that it would be like that? I had never really even given much thought to the idea, the potential applications of such a... But still, they bested us. They bested her. It turns out fusion can turn even broken, nobody gems such as them into a threat. And now, I am a prisoner once more, into being such as them. How humiliating. And she is gone. She left me here. How could she? She needs me to survive. I was a fool to work with her. When we fused, I could feel that gunk inside me, muddling with my form. She's even more unstable than I suspected. She won't last long on this planet alone. The off-colors want me to help them, to neutralize the geoweapon. They're even dumber than they look. The weapon will emerge. My existence will expire along with every other thing on this pathetic rock, and all of this will be for nothing. What a waste. I can hear them coming. Pfft. Even their footsteps sound pathetic. Peridot out. I hope you enjoyed that little first-hand account, even if our source maybe had a few biases. Now, we learnt a lot from that little journey. Our team has apparently learnt of the existence of the cluster, Peridot is now under their supervision, and Jasper doesn't seem to be doing too good. We'll dive deeper into some of these elements very soon, but for now, let's talk a little bit about the fusion of Peridot and Jasper, Unakite. Unakite serves as the climax of Jasper and Peridot's perilous allyship and their joint pursuit of Steven. Leading up to her formation, Jasper had begun to slip, supplementing the pure fuel her splinter implants require with corrupted gem shards, her weakening form only worsening the growing insecurity she felt following being bested by Smoky Quartz in combat. Peridot, meanwhile, had been left reeling following Steven's reminder of the looming threat of the cluster, its presence escaping her mind in the chaos of leaving Care, meeting Jasper, and tracking Steven. These factors sparked an intense desperation in the two gems, each of them with a reason that rendered failure an impossibility, and united over their shared goal, they fused into the singular embodiment of their partnership, a being solely focused on one thing, capturing Steven. Unakite serves kind of as a parallel to Malachite within the original show, but whereas Malachite was portrayed as two minds fighting for dominance within one body, Unakite, in spite of the big personalities that comprise her, exists as a unique personality, a being of brawn and brain, the smarts of a scientist and the force of a warrior in one singular hulking form, and she did not go down easy. However, after a long and hard-fought battle, Unakite was unable to keep up with the onslaught of attacks dished out by our team, and after Steven, trapped in the powerful jaws of her torso, expanded a barrier around himself, he was able to burst the form of the monstrous fusion from the inside. Unlike Malachite, whose presence in the ocean was a long-running threat within the show, Unakite's role is more adjacent to that of a final boss, a big test of strength after a series of hard-fought challenges, and our team emerged victorious, apprehending Peridot while Jasper managed to slip away once more. We're going to follow up on Peridot's story in the next segment, but Jasper will remain a mystery for now. I wonder what she's up to. Perhaps seeking out the whereabouts of the other broken gem that was stranded along with her? And lastly, let's talk about this design, and trust me, I have to talk about this design because this one gave me so much trouble. This drawing was actually the third of 3 finished drawings I made of this character, and believe me, it is a wild departure from where this concept began. Originally, Unakite was actually a tiger's eye, sporting a body plan much more closely resembling Malachite and with more beastly, animalistic, almost draconic features, but something about those early designs just weren't clicking. And the image of a cartoon villain sat atop a robotic mech, think Team Rocket or Dr. Robotnik or even Bowser Jr. popped into my head, and I switched directions entirely. I thought that the idea of a fusion that uses part of its body as what's essentially a vehicle or a tool was really fun, and an interesting way to incorporate the extreme differences in the silhouettes of these two while visualizing the mutually beneficial partnership they share, as well as paying homage to Peridot's affinity for technology and her limb enhancers. I think it's really cool when designs will portray a concept that is typically more sci-fi or technology based with an anatomical, beastly or magical twist, so I gave them this long dark cape of hair and putting this giant glowing jaw as the centerpiece of the torso. I wanted the jaw to have this internal glow to it, like the energy from Jasper's splinters were being exposed from the inside. And inspired by the red of the Unakite gem as opposed to the earthy colours of the original tiger's eye, I threw in some more impish qualities with the clawed fingers and horn-shaped visors. Here's the final design for Unakite. I'm really happy with how this one turned out, and thank God, because it was such a journey to get to this point. There's nothing worse than putting the last touch of shading on a drawing only to start all over again, but I think this fusion is just a really fun blend of concepts and ideas that I can't help but love, even if she'd tear me apart without a second thought. The cluster. It is finally time. Since the very inception of this series, people have been asking, what about the cluster? The gem superweapon composed of millions of gem shards embedded in the earth. And I wanted to do my best to give this concept the attention and the grandiosity it deserves, so I won't take up any more of your time with the preamble, and let's jump into it. Upon Peridot's initial decision to abandon Homeworld and join the ranks of Care, there was one thing at the top of her mind. One thing that would put a stop to her endeavours indefinitely. The very thing she'd been sent to Earth to monitor in the first place. The cluster. So, she schemed a plan, not only to prevent the geoweapon's emergence, but to harness its very existence for her own gain. Care, upon learning of the presence of a planet-destroying superweapon under their feet and their new alien allies' plans to utilize it, were, of course, extremely receptive to this proposal, swiftly granting her all the manpower and resources she would need and allowing her to spearhead the massive operation, codenamed Project Geode. With the gem's careful guidance, they pinpointed the cluster's entry point to a small town just off the coast of Delmarva, and they began a gargantuan operation, drilling and installing a seemingly endless number of pipes and tunnels into the surrounding countryside, accompanied by the construction of many large facilities. Publicly, this project was spun as a coastal development and environmental stimulation effort that, over its several years-long construction, employed much of the region's population, establishing Care's impressive influence over the area, one that remains to this day. After this arduous process, Peridot's vision had been realized. An industrial-scale operation, countless pipes funneled directly into the Earth dedicated solely to the siphoning of energy and resources from the geoweapon. The power and material they collected was then refined within the connecting facilities before being distributed to the numerous care sites across the country, powering and ensuring their continued operations. All the while, the cluster being constantly depleted and drained of the energy it required to form would remain nothing more than a living battery. Peridot, as the only one with a true understanding of the cluster's unique composition and the exact procedures required to keep the project operational, had just solidified herself as an indispensable member of CARE's ranks. Her plan was perfect, flawless, foolproof, as long as she was around to keep it running smoothly, of course. Now, with that background info, let's jump many, many years into the future, to the events leading up to and following our team's confrontation with Peridot, Jasper, and Unakite. After Connie decided to turn her back on her parents and the callous organization they had dedicated themselves to, choosing to align with Steven instead, there was one thing that she was desperate to bring to his attention. Although she did not know the true gravity of the threat looming on the horizon, she had garnered enough info, listening in on the hushed, urgent whispers of her parents, to know that whatever it was bad. Despite the Maheshwaran's best attempts to conceal their concern from their beloved daughter, there were 4 phrases that she had heard repeated time and time again. Peridot, Project Geode, disaster, and running out of time. After sharing this information with the group, the air became thick with the anxiety of the unknown, and with no further leads on this ominous threat, they decided to seek out the one being who could illuminate them. Unfortunately, it just so happened that she and her brutal companion were hellbent on their capture. Following their confrontation with the monstrous Unakite, our team was left weary, battered and bruised, but seemingly in an even worse state than them was the captive Peridot. Spiraling from the aftermath of her recent fusion, defeat, abandonment, and reeling from the reminder of her own mortality after remembering the presence of the now uninhibited cluster. When prompted, she seemed to take solace in gleefully informing her captors of the cataclysmic consequences of its emergence, going into great detail about the certain doom spelled out for their planet and every being that called it home. Steven implored her to help them prevent this catastrophe. She was a smart gem, there had to be something that she could do to help, a notion she only scoffed at. Not only was the cluster's emergence years overdue, but after being tampered with for so long, its nature had grown even more unpredictable. Its emergence and Earth's destruction was inevitable. Tired and defeated, our team set up camp, leaving the captive gem alone with nothing but the darkness and her thoughts. The reality of her fate began to settle in. She decided if she was going to die, it wouldn't be without a fight. And besides, Peridot, the legendary savior of Earth and conqueror of the cluster, it did have a certain ring to it. In the morning, she reluctantly informed the team of her cooperation. It was a long shot, but perhaps if she could re-establish even a singular Project Geode facility, bypass the safety protocols and tweak its output to make up for the time spent inactive, she could halt the cluster's development once more. Or, at the very least, buy herself some time. Although our team did not understand a single thing the gem had just proposed, it was the best and the only plan they had. And with this small semblance of hope sustaining them, our team set a course for Beach City, with Peridot in tow. As they approached the town, it was almost unrecognizable from the cheerful, sunny place Steven had frequented as a child. The clear sky replaced by ominous black clouds, the calm waves now razor sharp. Steven fought to quell the rising sense of dread in his stomach as memories of holidays with his dad stirred alongside the fear quickly taking hold of his mind. Quickening their pace, they headed towards the nearest geode facility. following Peridot's direction into the hills on the city's outskirts. Harsh winds howled, clawing at them with their approach, and with every step, the earth below seemed to shudder in response. The building was visible now, a bleak grey structure looming in the distance. Stephen shared a shaky smile with his companions, their wide eyes meeting his own. He attempted to offer them some words of encouragement, but his voice quivered on their delivery. But yet, they were so close. They couldn't fail. Failure was not an option. Not this time. Suddenly, with a violent roar, the earth shook, knocking them to the ground. And then, everything seemed to happen both all at once and painstakingly slow. Fissures in the ground began to open, the quaking earth splitting around them. A massive chasm opened up beneath the building, pulling it underground. And then came the light. A massive, blinding flash illuminated the hillside. It retracted, sinking back into the earth before slowly it began to seep from the cleaved soil. Ghostly tendrils rising slowly before rushing out like a geyser, it coiled into the air, flowing into the clouds above. Peridot screamed in terror. Lapis quivered. The corrupted gems huddled together. Amethyst dug her fingers into the soil. Connie gripped Lion, whimpering beside her. And Stephen remained completely and absolutely frozen in place. He watched as with each passing second, more streams of light began to appear on the horizon, bursting from the hilltops, the forest, and even the sea itself. They converged into a single point within the clouds, forming a violent, swirling vortex over the ocean. "Peridot, what do we do?" Stephen cried. "Nothing. There is nothing we can do. It's over." The air filled with an ear-piercing alien sound, a violent hum seeming to penetrate into Stephen's very mind, the scream of a million broken voices all at once. And from the swirling vortex, the cluster began to take shape. Ribbons of light tangling and thrashing through the air. It was beautiful and horrific all at once. Great globs of energy stretching and squishing like dough as it began to take shape. A mass of morphing hands and mouths and teeth spreading out across the sky. After what felt like an age, its form seemed to settle somewhat, and the horrific, hulking spectre of a gem weapon loomed over the sea. Peridot stared at it, her face white in the light, her eyes wide, her mouth moving but making no sound. Something isn't right. "Obviously," Stephen shouted, gesturing to the glowing mound of hands and teeth in the distance. "No," she croaked. "It isn't right. It's not supposed to be like this. Something's wrong with it. It's formed, but we're still here. That's not supposed to happen. It should have torn the earth apart from the inside out. Its core is still in the ground. Harvesting it must have destabilized it to the point where it can only muster this vestigial form." "So what? We can stop it?" Stephen asked, a glimmer of hope returning to his voice. "Cut access to its core, send it into space. What can we do?" "So, we might be able to survive this if we leave now," she shouted. "Come on, chances are it won't even be able to reach the outskirts of the region." "But what about Beach City? What about the people here? What about it? Don't you see that thing? It might be weakened, but that is still a galactic super weapon. This town is doomed, but we might not be if we leave now." "Can you for 1 second think about something other than yourself?" Stephen snapped. "These are people's homes. There are families here. People. Real people with lives that have meaning, and we are the only ones who can do anything to help them. How could you be so heartless?" Peridot leaned over Stephen, inches away from his face now. His gem began to pulse instinctually. "Listen to me, hybrid," she snarled. "You are out of your depth here. You aren't even a real gem. I am, and I was made for the sole purpose of understanding and analyzing things like this. I was born with the knowledge that I so generously am giving to you now. There is no stopping that thing, but it seems there is a chance of surviving it. And I don't know about you, but I'm willing to take that chance. Before Stephen could respond, Amethyst pulled the gem away from him, placing her hand firmly on Stephen's shoulder. I think we can do this, she said. Besides, a brief smile flickered across her stern expression. What's the harm in trying, right? A sentiment the rest of the team echoed. Swiftly, they leapt into action. Connie and Lion, shepherding the corrupted gems alongside them, made out for the city to help any stragglers left within, with an enraged Peridot haphazardly strapped to Garnet's back. Lapis, with an expression of utmost concern, was to head to the beach, using her hydrokinesis to restrain the beast, or at the very least slow it down. And Stephen and Amethyst, lacking any other direction, were going to confront it head on. If their attempts proved futile, they could at the very least try and lead it away from civilization. Shifting her form into a giant purple falcon, the duo took to the sky, Stephen holding on to her feathers for dear life as the raging winds threatened to drag him away. He watched nervously from above as Lapis sent an onslaught of water chains hurtling towards the raging monster, each one bursting moments after making contact with its writhing form as it descended towards the beach. Suddenly, there was a loud pulse of energy as beams of neon light surged from a nearby cliff top, raining down on the monster. Squinting in that direction, Stephen could just make out a mass of dark vehicles as their source. Care had joined the fray. Upon contact, however, their blast simply dissolved into the cluster's frame, only serving to enrage the beast further as it roared and thrashed, sweeping its arm across the water and sending a massive wave in towards the coast. Thankfully, Lapis was there to redirect it. Stephen and Amethyst were closing in on it now, and as Stephen stared at the wall of tangled limbs and light in front of him, he began to reel at this impossible task. He threw light constructs at the creature, summoning walls and barriers in front of it in an attempt to slow it down, each one shattering instantly as they connected. But there was something else too. Each time his powers collided with it, a pulse ran through his body and a voice screamed out in his mind. He frowned, and with a deep breath, clenching his fists tight, he materialized a chain of barriers, directing them at the cluster one after another. And there it was again. With each impact, his skin burned with a spark of something. A feeling he couldn't quite understand flickered through his mind. But he was going to try. If he could just... Amethyst, he called into the wind. I have an idea. What do you need, Stephen? Fly directly above it as high as you can. She let out a small squawk at the idea before propelling them higher into the sky with a flap of her wings. What now, Stephen? She crowed. In response, Stephen hugged her tight. Please don't be mad at me, and I hope you can catch. Without taking a moment to rethink his decision, he leapt from her back and began hurtling through the air towards the cluster, channeling all of his energy into a single point in front of him. A massive spike of pink light flickered into existence at his fingertips. The wind whipped at his body as if it was about to rip his very skin from his bones, squeezing his eyes tight as the blinding light of the cluster's form grew brighter and brighter below him. Bracing himself, he slammed into the surface of the beast with all of his might, penetrating through its shifting surface. A massive shockwave of energy surged through Stephen's body. His skin burnt, his head spun, he couldn't scream, he couldn't feel, he couldn't see. There was only the light, the blinding white light, before the darkness enveloped his mind. Rage, emptiness, shame, longing, the chanting scream of a million broken voices echoed through him. All at once, he saw his surroundings through a million different eyes. He reached out and clawed at the sky with a million different hands. His mind was linked with the cluster. Stop this, please. You don't have to do this. This doesn't have to happen. Not like this. His words nothing but a drop in the ocean of strained voices. I can feel your pain. What happened to you, every single one of you, it's horrific. It's not right, but this isn't okay. Please, let me help you. He began to spiral, unable to distinguish his own panic, his own fear from the vortex of beings he was lost in. Where did his mind end and where did the cluster begin? I'm Steven Universe. I'm 15 years old. My dad was Greg Universe. I was raised in Empire City. I am half human and half gem. Everything is going to be okay. He seized hold of this mantra like a life raft, chanting it to himself as he tried to steady his breath. Happy memories drifted through his mind, ice cream on the boardwalk with his dad, staying up way too late watching Dogcopter, training with Amethyst, laughing with Connie. I am Steven Universe, I am half human and half gem. Everything is going to be okay. A pulse of pink light emanated from his gem. At first it stuttered, flickering weakly before blossoming into a pink aura that enveloped around his body, regaining his mind once more. The only whole being, whole mind, in this raging cloud of broken ones. Everything is going to be okay, everything is going to be okay, everything is going to be okay. The pink aura expanded, trickling then flowing through this endless void of despair, and each fragmented mind that it touched, it began to soothe. Is this helping? Steven exclaimed. The cluster pulsed in response. Please, let me help you. I know you're hurting. I know they hurt you, broke you, drained you, and I'm so sorry. I want to help. Closing his eyes, he relinquished all resistance, and as his light flowed through the cluster, its own immense energy channeled through him. He became a solitary stone in a raging riverbed, directing the flow of the current. The surface of the cluster quietened, smoothed from a violent tide to a gentle ebb and flow. With all of his concentration, Steven guided the cluster's energy, untangling it at the seams as it began to reassemble, great ribbons of light unfolding and cascading across the skyline. It swept across the land. He watched from an overwhelming number of perspectives as green hills and lush treetops rolled past underneath. Shining rivers and ponds, the deep green ocean, nothing but a painterly blur rushing past. And in the other direction, he saw the endless white landscape of cloud tops, the clear sky above them filled with shining stars. It was beautiful. Gently, he shepherded the cluster's light back into the earth. As it retreated, Steven felt their connection begin to flicker and weaken. You're not alone anymore, okay? You have each other, you have me and my friends, and we aren't going to let anything else happen to you, okay? In response, the remaining light of the cluster took hold of the last flickering remnants of Steven's own power, twisting and folding itself as it spread across the jagged surface of broken gems. Then, with a resounding hum and one final pulse of light, it solidified into a gargantuan bubble, sealing itself away once more. In that instant, Steven's link with the cluster was cut, and everything went black. The last of his energy entirely drained, Steven plummeted from the sky towards the earth, saved by the grip of Amethyst's talons swooping in just in time. Gently, she laid her exhausted friend on the sand of the beach and hugged him tight. Beach City, Earth, the cluster, the gems, they were safe for now. The emergence of the cluster signified a dramatic shift in the public perception of gem activity on Earth. Previously, the threat of the corrupted gems was often overlooked by those living in more densely populated areas, while those residing in areas with a higher chance of a corrupted confrontation were desensitized to their presence. But the cluster was something else entirely. Following the situation in Beach City, CARE launched a full-blown media campaign, claiming the victory as their own. This restored the organization's rather dubious reputation as the fearful public, desperate for safety and security, latched onto them as the herald of their futures. This propelled CARE into a position of even greater influence, establishing defense contracts with several major cities and further solidifying their dominance across the country. with fear, mistrust, and unrest spreading amongst humanity, and care reaching even greater heights than ever before. The presence of our heroes is more necessary than ever, but subsequently the trials they will face will only become more treacherous from here. Phew. That was intense, even for me, and I wrote it. How are we doing, guys? Let's all just, shake, stretch our legs, take a deep breath. Okay, it's over. And if you're still here with me, thank you so much for sticking around. I know that was a long one, but for something like the cluster, something that is so horrific and intense, not only for a kid's show, but just in general, I really felt like I had to give it the spotlight it deserved. Now, before we talk about this drawing you've been watching come together, I want to take a second to talk about how I actually went about writing the cluster for this series. My ultimate goal in general for this series is really just to take the endless number of awesome and interesting concepts established in the world of Steven Universe and expand on them and twist them in ways that just wouldn't have fit the show and the story it was trying to tell. And because of that, I knew something as grandiose and integral to the Steven Universe lore as the cluster had to make an appearance. But this was such a challenge for me because how do you expand on a world-ending threat of a cosmic scale without ending the world? And so I came up with the idea of the cluster as a power source, both as a reason to explain its delayed emergence, but also to offer a way for the cluster to emerge at this scale without ripping a giant hole in the planet. Instead, going with this kind of ghostly spectre direction, with its diminished energy seeping through the weak points into the earth and forming in the atmosphere, only linked to its physical core by the energy streams feeding into it. So, okay, with the problem of the cluster's emergence solved, then came the next one. How would Steven defeat something like this? After a lot of brainstorming, scrapping ideas of massive care laser beams and cosmic interventions, I decided to take a direction similar to that of the show, where Steven psychically connected with the cluster. My idea was that with Steven being the only unbroken being within the cluster, he was able to sort of ground it, serving as a conduit for it to channel its energy through, allowing him to calm it and guide its energy back into the earth. Ultimately, the main role of the cluster in this story, apart from making some really dramatic artwork, is to serve as a catalyst for human and gem tensions to rise on Earth and give Care an opportunity to seize more influence and power over the population as unrest grows amongst the public and they turn to them for safety. I hope you enjoyed this little sequence. Now let's talk about the cluster's design. Firstly, guys, the rumors are true. I'm not saying I deserve an award or a medal necessarily, but I did draw a background. And I just felt that with something of this scale, this intensity, something this dramatic, I needed to set the scene. And don't get too used to it, but I'm quite happy with the tension and the intensity of this drawing. Part of the reason for this video's extremely delayed production was because I spent so much time drawing different concepts for the cluster. I have pages and pages and pages of different cluster concepts. It's insane. Trying to create a design that incorporated elements of cosmic horror, immense scale, and a million bodies merged into one single being, while also still maintaining some sense of balance and cohesion, was definitely a challenge. And alongside that, the cluster is ultimately a sympathetic creature. It's a victim of its circumstance. So juggling the concept of a monstrous world-ending threat with that feeling of suffering and pain took a lot of iteration. Some of my designs were much more monstrous and violent in appearance, while some were super abstract and conceptual. It took a lot of brainstorming to get to the drawing you see today. As a leaping off point, I took some inspiration from the official concept art from the Steven Universe art book, as well as the cluster taking the form of a giant hand in the original show, and I sprinkled in some of the forced fusion experiments as well, and maybe a touch of like the Grim Reaper. Finally, with the added element of this version of the cluster being drained and weakened, forming in the atmosphere instead of the earth, I landed on this ghostly, phantom-like direction, using the hand imagery to form this sort of cloak and ribcage visual around its torso. Here's a better look at how the final drawing turned out, and guys, I'm just so proud of this one. I could talk about it for another 20 minutes if I really had to. I think it's maybe my favorite drawing out of anything I've done for this channel so far. It's crazy what happens when you actually step out of your comfort zone a little bit. I really wanted to create an image that embodied the threat and dread the cluster embodies, and I hope I did it justice. Ruby and Sapphire. After all of the dramatics of the rest of this video, I thought we could wind down with something a little bit simpler and I want to say wholesome. Let's take a look at the components of garnet, ruby and sapphire. So all the way back in episode 2, Smoky Quartz managed to escape Jasper's ship with the gems of their companions in their hands. Following this climactic battle, and coincidentally Steven and Amethyst's own introduction to the concept of fusion, they would learn of the existence of another, as the blue and red gems that composed garnet lit up. But instead of the light melding into garnet's giant silhouette, it shaped itself into two distinctly smaller ones. As corrupted ruby and sapphire came into being, separated for the very first time since succumbing to corruption. In the words of Sapphire herself,
hijinks will ensue.
As these two gems who relied so desperately on one another to cope with the distress of their corrupted form, grapple with losing their connection to their other half. Ruby, losing access to what semblances of future vision they retained in their corrupted form, goes wild without Sapphire's tranquility and foresight to cool her down. Running around like mad, spitting balls of fire, her footsteps leaving patches of charred earth in her wake as she runs off into the nearby woods. While Sapphire, without Ruby's passion and impulsivity, completely freezes. Literally and metaphorically, curling her form up into a ball and entering a dormant state, completely unresponsive, a thick layer of frost creeping out from around her and coating the feet of our remaining team members as they watch on in exhaustion, shock and surprise. Steven and Amethyst, after recovering from the immediate confusion, were eventually able to coax Sapphire out of hiding, and clutching the icy tentacle of the gem who remained almost completely unresponsive, they guided her floating mass alongside them as they entered the forest in pursuit of Ruby. At first she was easy to track, simply follow the trail of scorched ground and smoking shrubbery, but eventually they ran out of leads. Not willing to give up hope yet, however, they continued on, the cool blue glow emanating from within Sapphire's gelatinous form lighting the way as darkness began to encroach on their surroundings. After another hour was spent searching, things were beginning to look pretty bleak, when suddenly, like a computer turning on, the stoic Sapphire jolted to life. She whipped around frantically, her light flickering and glowing with panic as she scanned their surroundings. Despite her extremely alien appearance, there was something so recognizably human in her frenzied movements. She let out a bizarre scream, a sound somewhere in the middle of a wind chime and the gurgle of a draining bath, followed by another and another as our heroes watched on helplessly. Finally, she sank through the air like a deflated balloon, connecting with the ground for the first time since her appearance. Nervously, Stephen approached her, racking his brain for some way to comfort the very clearly distressed jellyfish that made up half of his companion. But before his tentative, outstretched hand could reach her, the gem began to sing. It was an odd but eerily beautiful melody of hums and squeals, chimes and pulses, coating Stephen's arms in goosebumps as it filled the air. Sapphire paused momentarily before resuming her song, even louder now, the very ground seeming to vibrate with the resonance of the haunting sound. Stephen and Amethyst watched on silently, sharing a glance of shared awe and confusion as they absorbed the gem's wistful alien song. They stood there, watching as time seemed to pause, but after an inconceivable amount of time, their focus was interrupted by the distinct smell of smoke in the air, followed by a jarringly off-key howl emanating in the distance. Immediately, Sapphire shot into the air like a rocket, blitzing through the woods like a gelatinous bullet as the rest of the party raced after her to keep up. She continued her song, its echoes stretching out far and wide into the surrounding woods, the distant yowls and scent of smoke growing closer and closer with each passing moment. Suddenly, with the impact of what felt like two high-speed aircraft colliding, the creatures reunited, their forms melting together into a warm glow that illuminated the surrounding woods with its light. Stephen watched on in wonder as the light grew and shifted, and with a great ground-shaking crash, Garnet's hulking form appeared, chittering happily to herself. Gasped, Stephen ran at her and wrapped his arms around her leg. "You have even more secrets than I thought, you little romantic," he said joyfully, taking a brief moment to ignore the plumes of smoke curling up into the air following the small inferno Ruby had left in her wake. They would get to that just after basking in this happy reunion for one more second. Wasn't that sweet? I really wanted to end this video with something nice and relatively calm to wind things down, and also just to showcase that everything isn't always doom and gloom in this world, just like 99% of it. But seriously, despite the intensity and the frequent suffering that this universe knows all too well, I wanted to give an example of the softer side of this group. Stories like these are plentiful in my head. I've dreamed up a bunch of little bond developing side quests for these guys to flesh out their relationship and facilitate their development as individuals and as a group, but they often don't get a chance in the spotlight of these videos with all the other crazy things to cover. So I thought Ruby and Sapphire would be a great opportunity just to touch on it for a second. These two were always part of the plan for this entry into the series, but after drawing them and beginning to script this segment, I read this comment by Sapphire Sage 618 that gave me a lot of inspiration, especially the part about Sapphire singing, so I just had to adapt that into the scene. Thank you very much for your comment. And now let's talk about the design of these two love beasts. And can I just say, first and foremost, how in love I am with these two. When designing Ruby and Sapphire, I had a lot to draw from, especially with a duo like this. There was just so many ideas. With Garnet's crab-like appearance, I've known for a very long time that Ruby and Sapphire would be a turtle/tortoise and a jellyfish respectively. Like, that just makes so much sense to me. What do you get when you combine a turtle and a jellyfish, a crab? We'll just ignore the real-world implications of the relationship between turtles and jellyfish, please, and thank you very much. I also wanted to play on some other sort of opposing theming here, with Ruby being very grounded, earthly, and rough-looking, while Sapphire is extremely alien and round. And of course, the fire and ice influences as well, and even a little bit of past and future. To speak about these two individually for a second, when I was sketching Ruby, I originally went a lot harder on the tortoise resemblance, but then one of my sketches had this sort of mammalian goat-like look, which I started to lean towards, and then somehow throughout that process she turned into a triceratops, but I'm not complaining at all. I wanted her to look like a little furnace, strong, resilient, and full of energy and passion. And then Sapphire also took a lot of playing around with. I had a very strong general concept, but when it came to refining it and trying to get everything to flow together, that was when things got a little trickier. I originally was trying really hard to incorporate some element of a crystal ball eye into her design, with the interior of her head being completely translucent and filled with clouds and fog. I don't know, it was maybe a little high concept, but I ended up settling on this design instead, with these folds enclosing her eye, which I imagine her opening up at certain points to reveal this giant glowing orb inside. And drawing and rendering Sapphire was just so much fun. All the shimmers and the glows, the layers and layers of color. I do think the finished version looks a little bit too much like water than jelly, but she's too pretty for me to complain. And here is the final design for Ruby and Sapphire and the final design of the video. I love how these two turned out, so weird and cute, like two little freakish Pokemon. And now that I say that, there's definitely some subconscious Nihiligo question mark influence coming in here. I wanted to convey this kind of imagery of an alien princess and her loyal knight, while also making it somewhat believable that these two could combine into Garnet, and I think I managed to achieve that, but please let me know what you think. And that's all I have for you guys today. To anyone who has just sat through over an hour of me talking, I appreciate it so much, and thank you so much for being here and sticking through to the end. When I first set out to make this video, I was under the impression that it would be just another standard video, maybe a little bit longer, 40 minutes or something, would take a couple weeks to make. No, it took almost 2 months. There are many reasons this video took as long as it did, mostly due to the cluster. I did not want to just sit down and draw the first thing that came into my head. I really wanted to try and create something that I felt that I could be proud of. And so there was a long process of sketching and iterating and redesigning. Oh, it was so fun, but also such a challenge and quite intimidating. And then on top of that, the scope of this video just kept on creeping up. No one held a gun to my head and told me to make animations for this video or draw backgrounds and scenes for a extremely brief intro sequence, but if this video has taught you anything, it should be that I take my Steven universe very seriously. And then on top of that, there was a whole nother section that was extremely long that I planned on including in this video, that I made 2 finished drawings for and spent days scripting, but it just wasn't coming together how I'd liked, and it was kind of driving me insane. So I felt that it needed some more time to cook, and I scrapped it, which I'm honestly glad I did, because this video would have most likely been 2 hours if I had decided to keep it, but I'm gonna work on it a bit more, and I'll probably release that one in just a single standalone bonus video. But yeah, I just wanted to give a little explanation, especially to anyone who's been keeping up with this series and keeping up with the channel, on why it took so long. Sorry to keep you guys waiting. Thank you for your patience, and I promise that I will be back much sooner. The next video won't be a feature-length film, as far as I'm aware. But yeah, I think I just took the phrase "kill your darlings" a little too seriously when making this one, because there were a lot of darlings killed, but I feel pretty satisfied with the final result, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Thank you again so much for watching. If you did enjoy, please feel free to leave a like and a comment. Tell me what you think. Tell me your ideas. Tell me everything. I want to hear from you guys. It's been so long. If you would like to see more from me or keep getting updates on this series or the other stuff I have going on this channel, please feel free to subscribe. Between you and me, it is my birthday at the end of March. I'm actually trying really hard to get this video done before then, but it's looking I'm cutting a little bit close. So if even just a few of you decided to stick around after watching this video, that would be an amazing birthday present. But regardless, just you clicking on this video and being here with me for such a long time means more than you'll ever know. And with that all being said, I'll say one final time, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have an amazing day, evening, night, wherever you are in the world. If you're going to bed, sweet dreams. I'm gonna go to bed now too and sleep for a good 48 hours, but I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye.